They seem to be casting through the breach. Okay. We restarted this game with our opponent 6 land drops ahead of us at 5, and us at 5 life, so... Alright, guys. We are here for match 5 with the list that you see on screen. We are currently 4-0. Can we get some 5-0 hype? We'll see if we can manage to make this 5-0 happen. I wouldn't put it past myself to completely punt away this match and end up 4-1, because that's just something that I could do. But even if that happens, I'll still be very happy, because we've gotten some experience, we've gotten some knowledge, and to be honest, we just played some really nice games of Magic. So let's hope for the best here as we jump into this 5th and final match, and I will have some thoughts for you guys at the end of the league here about the deck list and what I think about it and how it relates to other amulet lists and what I like about it and what I don't like about it. So I will save that for the end. Let's just go ahead and jump straight into the match here. Alrighty, let's hop in here for the match. Last couple times we were on the play, so I'm kind of expecting to be on the draw here. Not that we prefer it, but instead we'll be on the play because, obviously, why wouldn't we be on the play? And we have one of those types of hands that I notoriously hate, because we have the potential to play a turn 3 Azusa into turn 4 Titan, or potentially a turn 3 Dryad into turn 4 Titan if we top deck an untapped source. But against some opponents, that just won't be fast enough. It would be better to mulligan for a turn 1 Reclaimer or turn 1 Amulet or Grazer kind of hand. And the blind, especially when we have all the lands that we need, we have multiple 3-drops, we have a Titan already ready to go, and we don't have to pack for it, and we have several untapped sources here. Like, this is just the ideal, like, quintessential turn 2 or turn 3 Dryad, turn 4 Titan kind of hand. I don't love it. Usually when I keep these, I end up losing the game, especially against a deck like Tron, although I guess we do have a natural Ghost Quarter, but I'm going to give it a shot. And again, this is for you guys. I personally do not think that turn 3, 3-drop, turn 4 Titan hands are keepable, even on the play, but there's only one way to find out if that's the case, and that's to give it a shot. So we'll see how this game turns out, of course. Our opponent leads on Spirebluff, Canal, Pass. So there's the possibility that our opponent is playing Storm, but there's also the possibility that it's Blue-Red Prowess, and they're holding up a Lightning Bolt or something here. Feels more like Storm to me, but what do I know? Our opponent plays Spirebluff, Canal, and passes. This could also be the Blue-Red Electro Balance deck. That's definitely not impossible. We have our untapped source as well for the Titan if we go for the Dryad here, so I think that's going to be the play. Let's get a green source in play, in case we top deck Garenbrig, I suppose. We'll play a Dryad. See if it gets remanded. Remand would indicate to me more towards Storm, and this really feels like Electro Balance, I think. Let's just pick up the Flagstones here, leaving tons of green sources in place so that we can potentially top deck a Garenbrig and still have one additional land drop in order to get extra Valakut triggers or something. Our opponent's just on nothing over there, huh? Just literally nothing. If our opponent has Electro Dominance and Living End, I mean, that really sucks for us, and we don't even have any blue sources, because the Living End would kill our Dryad, so we don't get the all land types thing that we would be looking for. I don't see a world where we're supposed to not slam Titan here, though. Like, Titan getting T-West and blue bounce land, and I guess picking up the Sanctuary would be the play, so that if they balance us, then we at least still have a Titan ready to go. I mean, I think that's our only option, so let's play out the Flagstones, and I guess the Sunhome. I don't know if there's a difference between having Sunhome and Ghost Quarter in play, but we'll slam the Titan. Maybe should have attacked first. That probably would have been a good idea, because now we're losing out on the 2 points of damage if our opponent does balance us. Archmage's Charm. Okay. So maybe this is more of a blue-red breach Titan kind of strategy that just happens to be playing Spirebluff Canal in their deck that wants to play a 5-drop. I'm confused. I would not have expected Archmage's Charm, that's for sure. And now we're potentially playing into Cryptic if we go for the Pact, so we could just choose to double strike our Dryad here. We can't double strike and also play Azusa. I don't think Azusa is doing much for us on this board anyways, so let's play... Do we even play the lands, or do we hold them for Valakut? I don't know. I think we're just attacking, holding the lands, and passing the turn. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but, that's okay. Alright. Well, might as well just show our cards. We'll go for the double strike. See if our opponent wants to respond. I guess if they were to, like, bounce, draw, or Dryad, that would be kind of annoying, but they just take the damage. Okay. I'm kind of tempted to play a colony here. I don't know. I can't think what all the differences would be. I guess if we play a colony, the only way that we're getting Valakut triggers without resolving a Titan anyways, and that would set up a bounce land for use with Dryad, is top decking Valakut exactly, but I mean, having 2 lands in hand versus 1 if we top deck a Valakut isn't terribly different, so I'm just going to play out the colony here. Could be wrong, but I think it's pretty free. I'll keep the Ghost Quarter in hand, though. They bolt us. Sure. I mean, it's better than them... Well, they are snap bolting us. This feels like a through the breach kind of moment, then. We're probably just dead to an Emrakul. Yep. Well, we'll let them show it to us. I don't know, maybe we had to slam Titan into this. Yeah. There's the breach. Well, yeah, we're just dead. We don't have anything to block the damage, so this is a flying one, of course. I definitely was not expecting through the breach with Spire Bluff Canals. That just seems wild, but anyways. We'll take in these Explorers and our Trackers. Although we do have to be a little faster, a little more committed, so maybe Explorer's not that fantastic. I think a couple is arguable. Summoner's Pact is not great, as tapping out the turn after means that we can't go threat into threat all in, the course of a couple turns. We don't want to have to tap out for it, basically. Bog would be good. Ghost Quarter is probably not worth it. I think those are the only lands we really want to cut. Radiant Fountain is debatable also, although keeping ourselves above 15 points of life is relevant, so we don't just die in a one-shot to Emrakul. Grazer actually blocks Emrakul as well, which is nice, and Reclaimer seems like it could be useful here. Maybe 2 Trackers is a bit overboard. The other thing to note, though, is that Tracker helps us produce a bunch of clues. So if we just leave these clues in play and don't even crack them and just use Tracker as a way to draw some additional cards when we feel safe to do so, but just produce a bunch of extra permanents to sacrifice to an Emrakul Annihilator trigger, then we may be able to just kill our opponent even through the breach. So that's something that I do like about Tracker in this matchup. We do have to cut one more card, though. Colony Garden produces extra permanents in a similar way as Tracker here. So Colony is actually surprisingly good in this matchup. We could trim... I don't know what we trim. Maybe Garenbrig. I feel like that's a little loose, though. Maybe 1 call. I don't like that either. Let's just take in our 1 Explorer and be happy about it, I suppose. Not playing on Blood Moon. I think that our opponent's unlikely to play it, and even if they do, I don't care if we get got by it. I just don't feel like we can realistically beat that while also trying to play around the breach combo, so... And this hand is a Snap Mulligan, so yep. Okay, we got a turn 1 Amulet or Reclaimer kind of hand. Looking like a turn 1 Reclaimer hand, maybe? I mean, we're definitely keeping this, that's for sure. We could probably bottom the Temple Garden pretty safely here. We'd like to top deck a bounce land specifically, but our Reclaimer might be able to set us up with a bounce land, so... I think this is fine. If we lead on Reclaimer, it could just get bolted. And that gives our opponent 1 extra draw to force our Amulet. So I'm kind of tempted to just play out the Amulet, although... That way we won't really have anything to do on turn 2 unless we top deck a white source. I guess we could just... No, we won't be able to activate Reclaimer. I think we are supposed to lead on Reclaimer here, just because we may not have anything else to do this upcoming turn if we don't play Reclaimer, so... And if we draw a bounce land... Okay, they do have the bolt. Well, that's unfortunate. And we would have drawn the bounce land too. I guess now we can actually cast our call if we want to. We'd be forced to leave our bounce land and play, though. Which would be kind of tragic. Of course, our Amulet Snap resolves. We can play Garenbrig, and then if we top deck a Zusa or a Titan, then we can Titan them this upcoming turn. But that would be playing into Remand or, like, Aether Gust kind of things. We could Sanctuary and leave it in play and call for a Dryad or a Reclaimer or something. And then next turn be able to play it. We would lose access to bounce land. I don't know. I feel like it's probably safest to just play Garenbrig. No, I changed my mind. I think that we need to have something to do this upcoming turn, and being able to play out whatever we call for is going to be just extremely important. So I'd rather have access to an actual play here. We'll yield until they're in step, and that's when we'll cast this. If they want to counter it, that's pretty fine with me. We could call for Tracker here and play it. We're not going to be able to get immediate value, and then our opponent could just bolt it or snap bolt our Tracker, and that would be pretty bad, so I'm not really inclined to do that. For similar reason, I'm not sure that Reclaimer is the pick. I think it's probably just Dryad. Our opponent's most likely going to remand or gust this Dryad, but that's fine with me. We'll play out the Garenbrig here, because even if they do remand or gust, we could top deck a bounce land and be able to cast Titan by activating Garenbrig, assuming that we draw not Boros Garrison. Cast a Dryad and see if it resolves. Of course it gets remanded. What else did we expect? Now if we top deck a green bounce land, we can pack forward Slam Titan if we want to. Our opponent's not holding up Archmage's Charm unless they play a Cascade Bluffs. So, it might be reasonable. And we can even leave the bounce land and play and pick up the Garenbrig so we don't die to our own pack trigger. I guess that loses potentially to, like, a Cryptic Bounce draw or something. Well, that's neither here nor there anyways, so I guess we'll just play out the Valakut and get our tap land out of the way. And slam this Dryad and see if they remand it again. They do. Yep. Alright, well, we'll pass back. This upcoming turn, we can play Forest and just pack 4 and cast Titan off Garenbrig, depending on what our opponent does. And if they just pass back, or, you know, hold up Cryptic, then they don't hold up Cryptic. This really is feeling like the best turn to slam Titan, as our opponent can't snap Remand. They've used 2 remands, so unless they have one of their gusts, they're unlikely to have a 2-mana interaction spell here. And they can't Archmage's Charm us. I feel like this is the best turn to slam a Titan. I guess we start with a pact and see if it resolves. They opt. That's a good sign. It's a very good sign. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a way that we can stop our opponent from just breaching us this upcoming turn if they have the combo. They might not have it, but I mean, they've had plenty of redraws, and this is their second opt, so they could very well just breach combos this upcoming turn, assuming they don't have one of those tap lands like the Spireleft Canal or another Into the Battlefield tapped like Valakut Stoneforge or whatever. That's why I was so surprised to see them playing Breach with Spirebluff, is because now if that was their land, they wouldn't be able to breach us this upcoming turn. But generally, it's not the type of land you would want to play in this style of deck, but I mean, clearly it must be working for our opponent, so our opponent has taken some time with this opt, that's for sure. So I guess we can haste our Titan and attack with it, because I'm not playing around a bounce spell like Brazen Borrower. And then get Colony Garden and something else, and maybe have enough permanence to be able to keep Titan in play. Actually, I guess we have to pay for our pact, don't we? Interesting. Well, we could get a basic force to try to play around Blood Moon. I don't know if I want to play around Blood Moon. Clearly we're attacking here, so we'll just go for it, and if our opponent gets us, they get us. Maybe our best hope is that our opponent doesn't have an untapped land source to breach us. Right, let's go ahead and do the haste thing. Alright, and I guess we just pick up... We could pick up the Garrison, so we have bounce land in hand to go with Dryad, but I don't think we need that. Rather have the mana in play, I think, so we'll pick up the... I guess we don't really want to pick up the Stronghold either, though, because being able to haste our Dryad and get in for 4 points the same turn it comes into play could be relevant for killing them with Valakut, so... I don't know, it's very strange. We don't want to pick up Valakut itself, though, obviously. We can actually play Dryad in our second main phase here. We can search for second Valakut and bounce land on our attack trigger, then play Dryad, and then immediately play a land and get triggers that way. So I also don't think it's right to pick up Valakut. Maybe it's just the castle. Then we might lose to Cryptic Bounce Draw. Unless we get a green bounce land, I suppose. So, like, Valakut green bounce land. And pick up the Stronghold after that, I guess? I don't know. Now, let's just pick up the Stronghold now. As we're going to be playing Dryad in our second main phase anyway, so we'll attack. Yep. So I think Valakut and a bounce land is going to be the play here to get Dryad into play now also. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 permanents. So if we got Colony Garden and something else, that would give us another 3 permanents. So that's 10. We could sacrifice 6 of them and leave 4 in play. So that could be green bounce land, Titan, Valakut maybe. Plus we're about to play the Dryad in another land. So I guess we don't really need to worry about permanents necessarily. Yeah, I think just Simic Growth Chamber and Valakut is going to be the best. So that's what I'm going to go for. And we'll pick up, I guess, just basic forest. It doesn't really matter. We'll pick up the Garenbrig. Alright, we'll play our Dryad. Would be nice if we had a fetch land here, right? We'd have actual lethal. Alright, and I guess we just play a green source. So our opponent can't, like, double... I guess Cleansing Wildfire doesn't even do it. Maybe it's right to get the Sunhome in play, then. To be able to double strike our Titan or Dryad or something. Let's see, we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if we had to sacrifice 6 of these, we'd be left with 3, so it'd have to be bounce land, Titan, and then we just lose to Cryptic. Maybe it's right to play Radiant Fountain instead. That way our opponent can't... Let's see, if they double bolt us, that would put us to 16, and we wouldn't be dead. They can't double bolt us anyway, so I guess we don't need to worry about that. I'd rather, I guess, have the Sunhome in play then. And we'll send these Valakut triggers upstairs. Always yes, always a yes, always yield. I don't know if this land choice is actually going to matter at all. Our opponent might just be straight up dead if they don't have a way to end the game immediately, basically. I think Blood Moon is the way that they most easily win, and I'm not really seeing our opponent with a Blood Moon, a mana base over here. They kill the Dryad, that's fine. They're still dead to the Titan on board. Okay, they seem to have Cryptic Command, perhaps? Well, we'd like to top deck a threat, I suppose. A Eladamri's Call would basically be lethal. No, we don't have enough green. So we need to top deck a Dryad or a Pact to have guaranteed immediate lethal, pretty much. Assuming our opponent does have the, Cryptic. I'm gonna tap like this. Actually, I guess it doesn't matter. Do we need the Growth Chamber up? Thinking probably not. It's probably better to leave the Selesnya Sanctuary up. I think it's pretty minimal. Alright, we'll play like this. Grazer. Interesting. Unfortunately, we can't play this pre-combat, because that still doesn't even play around Cryptic. So I guess we're just going straight to combat and making our opponent use this Cryptic here. We probably want to play the Grazer so we can chump block Emrakul with it, though. And even then, we can haste it and double strike it for lethal with our opponent at 4, so... At least we didn't die to our own trigger here for the Summoners Pack, so that's nice. Yeah, I think we play the Grazer. We'll put it in a Radiant Fountain. Let's actually just go ahead and put in the Stronghold. And I think we only need 1 land in hand for Dryad anyway, so I'm going to play out the Radiant Fountain also. I don't see our opponent gaining life in any kind of a strange way, so... Might as well get as many permanents in play as possible to try to play around this Emrakul thing. Yeah, I don't even think Through the Breach lets our opponent get back in this game at this point. So I just need to answer our Titan and not die to a hasted and double-striked Arboreal Grazer. Look at our mana base, the 3 Sanctuaries plus natural Valakuts being able to let us activate Sunhome naturally here. I guess Bolt, Snap Bolt would let our opponent chump block the Grazer and kill the Titan. And that would, like, kind of work. Have a pathway. Okay. I guess they also could, like, use a Cryptic Command here, so... We'll attack with both. Sure. We'll get T-West and blue bounce land for sure. Setting up another potential Dryad. So that just gives us another lethal threat. And we'll pick up the T-West. See if our opponent wants to block. They're breaching out an Emrakul to block. Interesting. Well, they're still dead to our Grazer then. Okay, we'll let them block. And before damage, we'll do all the things on the Grazer and they'll be dead. So, that'll be that. Killed them with a Grazer. How about that? Don't see that every day. Alright, let's go to game 3. Exciting stuff. I'm not seeing anything that makes me think that we need to play around Blood Moon with Rex Sages and Forces. I feel like they'll just be dead cards. I don't dislike Explorer or even Grazer in this matchup, partially for the reason that we just saw. It's a relevant blocker for Emrakul, but it also puts a body in play, and that's not irrelevant at all. Maybe Call's a little clunky here. Yeah, I feel like we should just run it back, so that's what I'm going to do. Maybe I overthink this matchup about the number of permanents and everything. I just feel like it's a good thing to be thinking about. Well, we get a turn 1 Amulet hand. We can't cast this Call at all, though, which is kind of unfortunate. We have multiple white sources we could draw, though. This hand's actually pretty medium. I feel like it's close enough, though. If we draw a blue bounce land, we can transmute Telario for Cavern, perhaps. A Reclaimer would be a fantastic draw as well. I'm going to try it. It might be bad. Garenbrig is not a bad draw. We'll play our Amulet and pass it back. No force is fantastic for us. Or maybe they accidentally F6'd through it. I kind of doubt that. Alright, blue bounce land does let us transmute. That could even pick up a Selesnya Sanctuary if we wanted to. Alright, let's play out the T-West here and pass it back. Giving us enough blue to transmute if we play Growth Chamber this upcoming turn. So, there's that. I guess there was some argument for playing Castle there in case we drew a Zusa or Titan and wanted to go for it, but I mean, we haven't given our opponent the chance to remand or Aether Gust anything, so I feel like just pacting and going for it this upcoming turn would have been a bad choice regardless, so I think this is fine. I guess we would have had it too, but I don't know if that makes a huge difference. We could just play Garenbrig and pass and plan to just hardcast Titan by activating Garenbrig with Growth Chamber. Or we could transmute the Telario West for a Sanctuary and plan to be able to call plus cast something this upcoming turn. We could transmute for Cavern and have a guaranteed Titan a couple turns from now, but I feel like that's going to be too slow. I feel like transmuting for a Sanctuary is going to be the best play. That's what I'm going to go for. It's not like we're losing land drop progress here either, as we get to pick up a land and leave the Growth Chamber in play, so I guess it's not great against Cryptic Bounce Draw, but I mean, it's not a whole lot we can do about that, so yeah, let's just pick up a Sanctuary here. If only Garenbrig would have entered untapped on turn 1 so we could play our Amulet, then we'd have a Garenbrig in play instead of a Forest, and that would have been nice. Wildfire doesn't really bother me that much. We're probably calling for a Reclaimer and playing it this upcoming turn. I guess it plays into Bolt, but I mean, what other choice do we really have? Another bounce land's not bad. If we were to pact for a Zusa and play it, we would only have up to 5 mana, so we're short of casting Titan that way. So I think we're just calling for a Reclaimer and playing it. I want to start trying to get threats in play. Our opponent's probably just about to breach us and kill us, but I mean, maybe not since we haven't given them any targets to, like, remand, but we'll cast this call. We'll see if they remand it. If they don't, we could just get Grazer here. That would put us up to 3, 4, 5 permanents. We'd still lose to breach anyways. Nah, it's probably just Reclaimer. I'm fine with Reclaimer. Alright, we'll pick up a land here. Play Reclaimer. We're basically dead to breach. Not much we can do about it. Our opponent's not responding at all. They have the bolt. Okay. They seem to be casting through the breach. Okay. Well, we have to sacrifice our permanents. Down to 5. Alright. Well, I mean, I guess we're going to continue playing out as much as we can. We're probably just going to die, though. Yeah, breach is not a fantastic matchup for us. We'll play Valakut, I suppose, and pass it back. Farm to draw. Okay. I mean, I still feel like we have a lot of resources available here. Are we slamming Dryad into potential counter magic? I feel like we have to be honest. If it resolves, then we can Growth Reaver pick up the Forest and be able to activate Garenbrig this upcoming turn and cast Titan, regardless of whether Dryad stays in play or not. That will probably be the play if it resolves. Of course it doesn't, so we'll pass back. We restarted this game with our opponent 6 land drops ahead of us at 5, and us at 5 life, so... Our opponent just has all lands. I mean, that's good for us, but... Alright, we'll play the Growth Chamber here for the reason that I was discussing earlier. And we're playing it out first in case our opponent has some sort of bounce spell or something that they want to deal with our Dryad, or double bolt or something with our bounce trigger on the stack, so we can guaranteedly get our extra land drop. Doesn't resolve, not surprised. I think it actually would have been better for them to Cryptic bounce the Growth Chamber and counter our Dryad and set us back, but what am I to say about that? The Wildfire, again, doesn't really bother us here that much. My experience has been that Cleansing Wildfire is not that fantastic against Amulet. Obviously, they're just slowly getting their incremental advantages here, so there's that. And, I mean, we'll just make the same play we've made, like, 3 turns in a row. Dryad doesn't resolve. If they snap Archmage's Charm, that's actually amazing for us. Fleek. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we're soon to be in just slamming Titan territory, so... And they just keep drawing lands. I mean, I guess making them not be able to activate their Vantress is pretty good for us. We could play Forest, activate Garenbrig, and cast Dryad, and that way if they remand it, we could recast it. It doesn't play around Mana Leak, because the Garenbrig mana can't be used to pay for the effect of Mana Leak, because this is not a creature spell. So therefore, it also wouldn't play around Snapcaster either. I mean, nothing that we're playing plays around Snapcaster at all, though. Jamming a Titan into a remand doesn't feel that great. We can get immediate Valakut triggers if we play Dryad and get up to 6 permanents, more than 6 permanents. I feel like we're supposed to cast Dryad here. It's a little debatable, though. We will activate to play around remand, and nothing else. I guess our opponent doesn't know that we don't have another 3-drop ready to play. They're going to interact anyways. Hopefully it's a remand. I'm surprised that we're still playing this game, to be honest, but... It is a remand, so we played around this. Can we get a spell to actually resolve? That is the question. Our opponent could just have a bunch of Emrakuls in their hand and not have any relevant spells. Or a bunch of Breaches and no Emrakuls. Admittedly, the second they top deck the other piece of the combo, then we'd just be dead, but... Are they scrying with Vantress? Ooh, they're countering the Dryad that way. I think that's actually pretty good for us. We'd rather them not be drawing cards with the Charm. So, I'm not unsatisfied with that outcome. They Wildfire our Garenbrig. Okay. You got it, I guess. They're just trying to draw the card out of desperation. I guess if they found a Breach or an Emrakul, whatever they were missing, then they just had us there. That would be my assumption. Yeah, just slam a Titan. Our opponent will run out of counter magic eventually. We don't really have any other option but to just keep playing things. Force our opponent to use their mana without scrying, I guess. Snap. Yeah. Well, now we're just dead to a bolt. So the end is nigh. Unless they bounce their snap with the Cryptic. Of course, they're not going to do that. Alright, let's see the bolt, opponent. No? They don't even Vantress on upkeep to look for it. I guess that would be a little risky. Okay. No bolt. Tracker. Interesting. Do we play Tracker and then play Flagstones? That wouldn't allow us to... I guess we would be able to pact for Dryad. Do we have another Dryad left? 1, 2, 3. We do have one Dryad left, but that would force us to tap out by casting Summoner's Pact. If we play Titan, we can get Colony Garden and Radiant Fountain. Assuming it resolves. I'm not sure whether it's better to cast Amulet, play Flagstones, than Titan, or just to cast Tracker. I feel like it's probably better to cast Tracker here. Because otherwise we may not have land value to go along with it. Let's do this first. Let's play the Amulet. Okay. We'll play Tracker. My opponent says, no way. Manly! No! Well, I mean, we're not paying. Do we play the Flagstones anyways? I don't really see a reason to do so. That could give us some value cut triggers this upcoming turn, so I guess not. Or even an additional mana. I mean, if our opponent just has all the counter magic in the world, there's no way we're going to be able to win. So, and now they get to scry with Vantress. So this is probably the beginning of the end, if it wasn't already the end. They put one on bottom and one on top, so we're probably just dead here. Yeah. Alrighty, well, at least we did the best that we could. We ended up 4-1. As unfortunate as that may be, it is simply what happened. And admittedly, I'm pretty happy with that. So, let's talk a little bit about the deck list. First of all, I want to say that my personal opinion is that Elvish Reclaimer is definitely in the top 3 builds of Amulet right now. I feel like Reclaimer is better than traditional Amulet, maybe. And I don't really like Karn Amulet that much myself, so I don't think that Karn Amulet is that fantastically positioned, and I think Reclaimer Amulet is better than Karn Amulet. Although, obviously, it depends on the matchups. So, let's just briefly discuss the matchups when it comes to Elvish Reclaimer and how it affects your matchups, right? Reclaimer, being a 1-mana creature that just comes down and starts dominating the game, is extremely potent, not only in control matchups, just because it's a 1-mana threat, but also in matchups where your bullet lands are extremely, extremely valuable. For example, if you play turn 1 Reclaimer against Dredge, that means turn 2, if they don't have the Reclaimer dead by then, you get a Bojuka Bog, and that's basically unbeatable for Dredge, to just search up a Bojuka Bog at instant speed. Like, turn 1 Reclaimer is almost unbeatable against Dredge, especially game 1, but in games 2 and 3, they just have to immediately Lightning Axe it, or they can't win. And that's insane, right? It's a similar thing with Living End, where you play a turn 1 Reclaimer, and then from that point on, you just hold up an instant speed Bojuka Bog, so whenever they cast the end, you just exile their graveyard, and they get no value, and, you know, like, what could they do about it, right? So, those kinds of matchups are the matchups where Reclaimer shines, and actually, Reclaimer does a very similar thing against Control, even. You play turn 1 Reclaimer, if they don't immediately push it, then turn 2, you have the ability to search up your one of Cavernous Souls, and from there, life is easy. Even if your Reclaimer dies after that point. Like, let's say you literally just sacrifice Forest, replace it with a Cavern Souls, naming whatever, Dryad, a Giant, whatever it might be. That is oftentimes good enough by itself for the Reclaimer to have done its job, and definitely worth the 3-mana investment, plus a card from your opponent, after all is said and done. So, Reclaimer does a very similar thing in all of those matchups, and it also has some other niche usages. I like playing one Colony Garden in the list just in general, but also especially with Reclaimer, as being able to search up a Colony Garden at instant speed lets you play around sacrifice effects like Kaya's Guile, for example. So if you're looking for a deck list to beat up on some Esper players, if you have a lot of control in your meta, I absolutely would 100% recommend playing 4 Reclaimers in your Amulet list. And I think that playing the Flagstones and the Temple Garden is a minimal amount of strife that you have to go through in order to make this viable. And also, I will say, at the beginning of this league, and before I had played any matches with the deck, I felt like Eldamri's Call was the weakest card in the list, and to be honest, I'm actually pretty impressed by the presence of Eldamri's Call. I thought that being able to just call for a 3-drop on turn 2 and then play it on turn 3 would be kind of weak, and in some cases it is, in some cases it is not, but the main benefit of Call comes from the fact that you can call for a Reclaimer and play it, and there are many situations where calling for a Reclaimer is the best play. I think even one of the times in this league, in one of the matches, we Summoners Pacted for a Reclaimer and played it, and it was fine, you know what I mean? So, actually, I'm quite impressed by Call in this particular list, and I definitely would continue to play it. Maybe we could trim down to 1, because there are situations where Call is a little clunky, but overall, I think Call is fine. In the sideboard, I should probably address the Explorers. I haven't really gotten to test them a whole lot, and part of the reason for that is there are not terribly many matchups where you want Explorer over your other ramp pieces. For example, against Control, you want to bring in Explorer over some of your dead cards like Grazer, for example, and dead lands, and it's very good there. You can trim down on Summoners Packs and rely on Call for additional threats and stuff like that. And so Explorer is very good there, and it's also very good against the black-green mid-range decks. But let's be honest, those are just 2 decks mainly, because usually there's only one viable Control deck at a time. Those are mainly just 2 decks in the entire wide Modern format. Explorer is not going to be good against your Burn and Prowess decks. Explorer is not going to be good against opposing combo decks. It's not particularly good against Tron or other Amulet opponents, as it's a little slow there, and I usually board out Explorers in those matchups, and I think that probably makes good sense. So, the ultimate breakdown on Explorer is that it's just coming in very infrequently. Whether that makes it worth it to play Explorer or not in the sideboard, I can't really say, because in the matchups where you want Explorer, Explorer really is the best card that you can be playing against those Control decks, against those Black-Green X decks. Explorer is pretty invaluable, and in that case, it's kind of like Grazer. But I feel like Grazer has more general-purpose usage against a wider variety of decks. It blocks against all kinds of aggro decks, not only just Burn and Prowess, but there's a high presence of aggressive creature decks that you want Grazer against, and not as much of a presence of, slower, grindier decks. Plus, we're already playing Reclaimers against the Control matchups, so really, this list only struggles in that regard against Black-Green specifically, and maybe we could get by without Explorers in that matchup. So perhaps these Explorers could be something else. I don't know. Let me know what you think, and if you've tested with Explorer in the sideboard, as I would be curious to know your thoughts on Explorer. But yeah, I think that potentially moving forward in this list, we could trim the Explorers and add a few additional sideboard cards. Tracker has been quite good, especially alongside Elvish Reclaimer. I think maybe 2 is a good number, maybe. What are some cards in the sideboard that I feel like could be useful? I should also say that I think it's actually reasonable to play a 3rd Path to Exile over the Dismember. I think that the difference is pretty minimal between these. I suppose it's a little harder to cast Path, but Path is much better against the Prowess creatures that could potentially grow out of Dismember's range. Even by a simple mutagenic growth, your opponent can save their Stormwing from a Dismember if they have mutagenic growth, and that could be kind of a disaster. And Path will hit those. Path is also much better against Shadow. That said, I don't know that I would want a 3rd copy. Maybe I would. That would definitely be something to test, so I guess in the next league with this deck, I would play a 3rd Path and see how it goes. Another card that I feel like could be very well suited for the sideboard here is Obstinate Baloth. As I mentioned before, one of the problem matchups that we are looking to solve here, as Reclaimer is pretty weak against this particular deck, is Black-Green X, Tarmogoyf, Thoughtseize, mid-range type decks. Elvish Reclaimer is not really at its best against those strategies, and Obstinate Baloth definitely helps a lot against the Croxas and Liliana, the Veils of the World. It's an intermediary threat, and it also has overlap against Prowess, another one of the matchups that this deck is looking for help against, as Reclaimer just gets bolted in those matchups and doesn't really accelerate us at all. So we already have Grazers for that matchup, but an extra Baloth could go a long way as well. Another card that I could see for this deck, believe it or not, is a copy of Gaia's Blessing. This is one of those reshufflers. I use Blessing here only because I don't own any copies of Emrakul or Kozilek, but basically just the reshufflers that let you get extra game against Mill. I think that right now this list is pretty solid as far as the choices that are being made for the sideboard and the main board, and I actually feel like it has a bit of a freer sideboard than most other Amulet lists that I've played, and that's the main reason why I haven't played a reshuffling effect very often in my lists in the past, is I feel like there are better cards to be playing, but I feel like one of the matchups that is most difficult for this deck to solve is the mill matchup, and having a reshuffler is a good way to fight against that. If you have access to Kozilek or Emrakul, I would probably play one of those two. Most likely one of the Eldrazi over something like Gaia's Blessing. So I think my preference would be Kozilek, most likely, as the cast trigger to draw cards is quite relevant against control, and it's a little more easily castable. So, of course, the card that I'm talking about here is Kozilek, a Butcher of Truth. The 10 mana 12/12. When you cast it, draw 4 cards with Annihilator 4, and of course the reshuffle clause. I think this one is a good choice. It gives us additional tools in the control matchup, which admittedly I don't really think that this list needs with 4 Reclaimers already ready to go, but it does help there. Perhaps you don't even bring it in against control, in which case maybe you just play the Emrakul for being able to beat Infinite Life, for example, but I don't know if I would worry about that, to be honest. I think a Kozilek would be a good addition, mainly for the mill matchup, but I do think it would be worth it for 1 slot. And finally, the last card that I would suggest adding to the sideboard, one that I've never played before but have many thoughts about, is the second copy of Ghost Quarter. The first copy in the main is obviously a bullet against the Amulet and Tron matchups, but of course, Amulet and Tron are some of the worst matchups for this list, specifically because Game 1 is just arbitrarily much worse against those decks than it otherwise would be. For example, we're fully committed to playing Grazers instead of Scouts, specifically for our matchups against the prowess opponents of the world. We need to be able to win games 2 and 3 against them, and Grazer is a big piece of that puzzle, whereas some of our opponents will still be playing Scout. And on top of that, we're playing 4 copies of Elvish Reclaimer against opposing Amulet opponents who just have more business spells, more Titans, a second Azusa perhaps, 4 copies of Castle Garenbrig instead of the mana base that we're playing. So, against opponents who are doing things a little faster and a little more consistently than us, Reclaimer definitely doesn't look great in those matchups, and I think that Ghost Quarter just makes a lot of sense for the Tron and Amulet opponents of the world. It could perhaps be a Tectonic Edge, but I've chosen to go with Ghost Quarter as being able to activate it if you draw it naturally comes up somewhat more often than you would think, and there's also times where your opponent will be beneath the 4 land limit for the Tectonic Edge effect, and you still want to Ghost Quarter them, particularly against the Amulet, where bounce lands keep returning things to their hand, and you might not even get to use your Tectonic Edge in a meaningful manner before your opponent gets to cast Titan, so perhaps this is the weakest card in the sideboard. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that it's worth a shot, and obviously, of course, you could make whatever sideboard changes you would prefer in this deck list, and it would probably be just fine. So, with that, I will just leave you guys with those final thoughts, and yeah, I think that Reclaimer Amulet is actually a pretty strong force in the modern meta. I think that it is most certainly on the same power level as just a traditional Amulet list, and especially even as Karn Amulet, I would say. I feel like it has those similar feelings, and it swaps around the matchups a little bit, but for the most part, I think that it can definitely game with the big ones, and yeah, keep this one in your rotation if you're not already familiar with Elvish Reclaimer, and I will see you guys for the next league. Thank you guys for watching. This is Redface Menace, signing off.